Okay, let's do a pretty cool little effect in motion. I'm not sure what you could call it, but you can give it a name after you see what it is. So let's go to our file browser or our library, our content folder, and let's search for our basic blur. And there's our basic blur. I'm just going to apply that to the middle of our project. So let's open our layers up here. Now we have our basic blur, and I'm going to rename this to center. Okay, then I'm going to hit, with that selected, I'm going to hit Command D, and I'm going to call this one Around, A-R-O-U-N-D. And I'm going to pull it up above the first one like this. Okay, so now with the Around selected, let's go to our inspector and let's scale it down. About like that right there. Now let's keep the Around, the little one, in other words, let's keep it selected now. Let's go up to our Make Particles button and let's select that and Make Particles, and that will turn that into an emitter. Okay, so now that that's turned into an emitter, I'm going to add a behavior to this emitter. So I'm going to go to Add Behavior, Simulations, Orbit Around. Okay, now that brings up my Orbit Around parameters. I'm going to make my strength about 57. I'm going to make my influence about 1700. I'm going to include the Z and have the pole axis random. Now in my object box, I'm going to drag that center blur and drop it. Okay, and now when we play this, you can see what we got here. Okay, so now if you want to, you can uncheck that center blur and get rid of it altogether. Okay, so now we have this. Can't really do much with it yet. So let's go back to our emitter and go to our emitter tab and let's make some adjustments. Let's turn on to 3D. Okay, now let's go down to our birth rate and change it to 97. Let's go down to our life and change it to 10. Let's change our speed to 0 and our initial number to 400. Now when we play this, you can see what we get here. It looks like this little circle is going up and down here. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go down here and under color mode, I'm going to say colorize, and I'm going to pick like a reddish orange. Okay, like that. And I'm going to select additive blend. Okay, now we can also scale this down a little bit, which will control the particles in the middle there. As you can see, as I scale it down, it's getting smaller and smaller. Okay. Now we need to add a glow to this, and let's add it to the whole group. So let's say add filter, glow, glow. And as you can see, that gives us a good glow effect there. So let's up our rate. We can up our radius, and you can just fool with it, you know, and see what kind of floats your boat and how you like it, how strong you like it to be. Okay, let's go here. Let's go to our group tab. Let's turn on fixed resolution. That way it's not cutting us off there, and we're not having any. Now as you can see, let's go back to our glow tab. We can fool with our glow. Let's see here. Let's just tinker around with it here just to make it a little more glowy. Okay, now let's go up here to our view. Let's turn on motion blur. Okay, and that turns on our motion blur. It's going to slow down your machine a little bit. Now let's hit Command J and bring up our project properties and go to our render settings. Let's change our samples to 16. And let's change our shutter angle to 500. And say OK. That's going to help the look of our little glowy thing there, whatever you want to call it. So we can go back to our emitter now. And if you want to change the color of something, you can pick Overlife, and you can change it to whatever you want. Let's try. We got all these stock ones. Now, as you can see, since I've added motion blur and all that, it's slowed it way down. So let's just change back to colorize, like that, and let's just render out a little bit of this here, because when you start adding motion blur and you start upping the samples of your motion blur, which the more samples you give your motion blur, the better quality of motion blur you're going to get. Okay, and you can see I have 14 gigs of RAM, a 10,000 RPM hard drive. I have the ATI 3870 and a quad core Mac Pro, and you can see what it's taken to render here. As far as motion blur is concerned, if the motion blur wasn't turned on, we would have been finished with this. And I'm not going to make you sit here and wait 2 minutes and 5 seconds for it to get done rendering. I will be back in a second, thanks to the magic of editing. So we'll see you in just a minute. Okay, and we're about done here. So it's done rendering now. As you can see, our bar is completely green. And we play it from the beginning. We get real-time playback. And we got our motion blur, we got our glow, and you can probably think of several ways or things to use this in. And you can probably put your own tweaks on it too and make it look completely different. This is just the basis, give you some ideas. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we'll see you in our next tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys.